Drink buzz. But you, I thought I was coming up here to get away from Holland. I got out of the car and I was like, man, it's worse up here.
Yeah. Somebody needs translation.
Marshall, let's go.
Let's go ahead and get started with the training committee. We do have a lengthy discussion, and I believe it will go into a lengthy discussion on EMT and paramedic recertification proposed policy. Did everyone get a copy of the two forms out in the hallway, two brown forms, EMT and paramedic? We'll be referencing that quite frequently. In our last meeting, one of the most requested items from the forum was that we come up with a standardized recertification educational component that would be consistent across the state, both EMT and paramedic. So there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of input, and a lot of work done by subcommittees to develop something that would beat national curriculum and something that we could all work together on. So I'm going to turn this over to Jamie because Jamie did put this together. So I'm going to let Jamie talk to you a little bit about it and just make sure everyone has a copy out there. If not, there's more on the table.
Yeah, and actually, let me clarify that. Jamie did not put this together. The subcommittee, chaired by Karen Steich, put this together. I just made it pretty and agreed to present it. So I'm going to stand up here behind these folks. I'm a moving target. But there was the thought behind this. Okay, MPCC was not had looked at multiple different models and things that they wanted to follow, based on going to a 4-year certification and the fact that our pass rates are not through the roof with the EMT especially, and are we providing enough education? So the committee looked into this. This got to be a detailed conversation last meeting. But basically the idea here is be consistent throughout the state. Why are we teaching different things? It doesn't make sense. We have 13 different approved EMT refresher classes. That makes absolutely no sense. And they're all being taught different ways. They're all being taught with different subject matter. Makes no sense whatsoever. So this committee had a big challenge. They got to make the field happy. They got to keep it cost effective. They got to make WVOMS happy. They've got to make MPCC happy. Very, very difficult task to undertake, but I will tell you this. I think they did a great job with it. So we'll talk about the EMT first. And they started with the National Registry model, what National Registry is going to, which is the NCCP, and it divides everything into modules. So the EMT had 5 modules. Okay? All those modules are outlined with the topic that has to be discussed in them, the amount of time you need to spend on that topic, and all of the required objectives for each topic are listed there. So if I'm teaching Module 5 and I'm covering all these objectives, when I get, and I'm just looking at Module 5 in the EMT, if I get to my 17th objective and there's things I want to add in there, fine, add all you want. Make it as long as you want to make it. Change the class however you want, as long as you've met the 17 objectives that are listed there. Okay, and that's your minimum requirement. So if I teach a Module 5 class, it should be the same that anybody in this room teaches. We should be covering those particular objectives. a lot of conversation had to take place with the Office of EMS, and John and I have spent a lot of time on the phone. And I commend him even in his off days. He's been calling me to work through a lot of this. We added Module 6 to the EMT because we already include our skills as part of that. So we just added Module 6, which is simply your skills. So you don't have to have a separate testing day and all that for skills because we did away with that. We incorporate that as part of the class. So now that is incorporated in part of the class. Every module is a 4-hour module. One of the concerns that we had is keeping those modules consistent. So one of the requirements, if we choose to move forward with this policy, is that everything's taught in a 4-hour module. In addition to these standards, by registry, okay, you have to have 10 additional hours required state training and 10 additional hours required individual training, which gives you 40 hours in a 2-year period. Okay. Currently, we require MCI or disaster management. We require hazmat. We require a protocol refresher and your CPR. We had taken the hour requirements away from those as far as they are concerned with hazmat CPR, and we said it just has to meet the standard because all these different CPR classes that are out there all have different hour requirements. All of the hazmat awareness classes all have different hour requirements. Well, the problem is, now if we're going to go with a model like this, we got to have those hours count. We don't want you doing a lot of extra stuff just because those hours don't count. So John and I looked through material to see what's available, hazmat awareness-wise, CPR-wise, and what makes sense for the amount of hours we're going to award for that. So we went back to the original, the way it was way back when. CPR, if you take a 6-hour CPR class, or you take a 2-hour CPR class, you're going to get 4 hours for it. Okay? No matter which model you choose to use, that's approved by the state already. And there's what, 5? Okay, no matter how they change in the future, you're going to get 4 hours for CPR. Hazmat awareness, that's all over the place. Some folks are doing a hazmat awareness that meets the standard in 2 hours. Some are doing them in 6, 8 hours. You know, there is one program out there that's an hour and a half, and it supposedly meets the standard. So hazmat awareness is going to be awarded 3 hours. Okay, no matter which one you take. If you take the hour and a half one, you get 3 hours for it. If you take the 8-hour one, you get 3 hours for it. Okay, it's your choice, but we had to come up with some kind of common ground for that. So at the end of the day, with 6 modules at 4 hours, that's 24 hours of a refresher course. 32 hours are proposed state and individual requirements. Okay. Registry already requires 20 of those, and that leaves you 24 hours at the end of all this that you need to get in CE hours. Now this is all over a 4-hour period, or 4 hours. This is over a 4-year period. Okay, so we're talking for an EMT 80 hours in 4 years. That's 20 hours a year. Okay, it's more than reasonable. I think MPCC will buy into it. It meets National Registry. The only caveat to this is, if you were going to maintain your National Registry, you would take that research class twice because they require it every 2 years, which is going to fill in the gap for the extra hours you have to get if you were just on state certification. Any of that makes sense? Karen, do you have anything you want to add to it? The result of this, if we chose to go this route, everything would be consistent across the state. The program would remain consistent. As the program changes, the format of how this is delivered across our state would stay the same. You just change the content or the required objectives that are in each section. So the way we deliver this program would not change. The modules would be required to be taught as a unit. So now instead of entering an EMT refresher course, you have to take a few extra minutes and you enter the 6 modules individually. What does that do? It's more work on you as the training person. But Marcia can't go to module 2 because it's on Tuesday night and her daughter got sick and she had to go home from work. She can come to Jamie's class and take module 2 and it's going to be the same material. Okay, that's one of the benefits of doing it this way and following what registry's already put together is that they're listed in CS as a module. When Marcia's ready to recert, we look in CS and she's got module 1 through 6. She's completed them. she's completed a refresher.
I will say that some of the topics in this refresher class look strange and new. It's because they're the new national standards. And every topic, if you pull up the National Registry website, that whole, everything is in there that you teach. Everything is in there, spelled out for you. The curriculum is there. The resources are there. Everything is there for you to teach. So it's all written out.
No questions?
Are you doing the same thing for CCT? Standardize the modules?
What's that?
CCTV can be pretty well standard now.
Yeah, but you can alter like what's in your modules in particular, right?
What?
They want the standard, they want
No,
CCT standard standards too.
Yeah, we've not looked at CCT. What we've looked at is EMT and paramedic, and the paramedic was done as well. Of course, it's a few more modules, but this brochure is laid out the same as the EMT one. You can look what's in the modules, and at the end, it goes through all the required things. Now, one of the issues with the not issues, but one of the benefits of the paramedic one is the alphabet classes are in there. Okay, they're 8 hours per refresher. You're going to have to refresh those twice in a 4-year period. So you're going to get an additional 24 hours towards that. Now this creates a 120-hour refresher for paramedics, which is pretty much in line with where we're at anyway. So you get 30 hours a year, which again, we think that this is fair, not excessive, and it's something that we think MPCC will buy into as well. Now, to make these policies work, there had to be some slight modifications to the EMS education policy. So there's a proposal out there for it, just some minor changes. The Office of EMS and myself have looked over this, and John, and we even added a section in the back called applicable hours, so that you can look at this policy and see, hazmat, you're getting 3 hours for, CPR, you're getting 4 hours for. So there's been a lot of time and effort, a lot of people involved in getting this to this point. So there it is. Questions, comments, concerns, hatred?
Well, that's good, I guess.
I can't believe it.
I know, I'm surprised.
On the proposed requirement, for the paramedic, for the 2 years, you get 8 hours for PALS and ACLS, and that's usually renewed every 2 years. So would that not be, can you get 16 hours for that on the proposed 4 years instead of 8?
Yeah, you get 8 per refresher,
Per
and you'll have to repeat it. So you're gonna get 16. Yeah. So yeah, I see what you're saying. I could change that in there, because it says for a 4-year period.
Well, it was added on cumulatively on the EMT one, but on this one, it just lists 8.
Yeah, you have 8 down there, Jane. So.
I know, I made a mistake, okay? Let it go.
Just clarify, no, you count.
I said it verbally, I made a mistake in writing, I'll fix it. Jeez.
I think what they're trying to
But you didn't
say,
catch it, so it's on you.
right there,
If that's as bad as it gets, okay. I gotta just put a time still there, man.
Thank you, Jane. You did a good job on that.
Then you have a question about exams. I don't see anything on here about exams. What are we doing?
That's the next topic. So Marcia's agenda.
That's our next item. No more questions before we wrap up on the new proposal for the EMT and paramedic recertification CE hours.
Well, wait a minute, we didn't address Rita's CCT
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry. Do we want to get this through first and then address CCT, or do we want to push it all through at one time?
It'd probably be better, I think. Let's get a process in place. You okay with that?
I was answering a question.
We'll get these through first, get a process in place, and then we'll go back and revisit CCT. Because we're gonna need CCT people to be involved in that.
Yeah, because the reason I asked is because there's a state education committee specifically for CCT that's working on that now. So instead of doing two things by two separate, if you could just probably get with that committee.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right, last call. Any other questions, comments? So this will go for MPCC, the next meeting for approval.
Go up to 30-day comment.
Go out for 30-day comment after it goes before the next MPCC meeting. Next item on our agenda is the testing status. Recertification.
I don't have an update. I haven't heard back from the vendor yet.
So we don't have any kind of time frame.
Cost double fees. Cost double fees.
So I guess the question, we're still intending on staying with.
Yeah.
Still do John right now.
Continue.
One needs to test until we hear.
So Tracy,
Yes, sir.
the intent is still to maintain a EMT refresher test. But Melissa was just talking, she has not had response back from the vendor yet for the new testing company to get a date. So she's gonna follow up with them and see where we're at in that process.
It is June. We gotta be done by September, right, 30th?
Are the changes in these booklets, what's the effective date you're shooting for us to do this?
What we had talked about committee-wise was, again, it's gotta go to MPCC. It's gotta go out for 30-day comment. So we're looking at, we're gonna be in the next year before we implement these. Maybe look at January 1st for EMT and April 1st for paramedic.
And the recertification testing is still in place with the state office. Someone can contact the state office should they need to test immediately with Jonna and set up an appointment with Jonna if they need a test right now. I know we have large groups. We have 36 that need to recertify by the end of the year, so we will not be sending them individually right now. We'll be waiting until the new process is in place or whatever the process that is decided upon. But if you have one person, or if we have someone who's coming in, into the state or whatever the situation is, and they can always contact the state office. And Jonna has a test that she can administer there to that person.
She can test groups too.
Oh, can she? Okay. I'm sorry. I thought we were just on small numbers right now.
Oh, no, she can
Okay.
do groups as well. She's been doing this.
You almost said 37.
So with these proposed changes, is it as simple as before when you had your registry card along with hazmat and MCI? Is it as simple as that?
You're gonna have to meet this for registry.
Right,
this is all the
so
registry
do we
requirements.
show you what will be an expired registry card and then a current one along with the West Virginia requirement, and then you're done?
Which is exactly the way it is now.
Right.
And we have not went as far yet to look at what would need to change on any of the sheets. I don't suspect there's much of anything that's gonna change on the sheets. So if you have that registry card, you just check that box, submit a copy of that card, and that's the idea. If you're recerting registry, you're actually gonna take more hours than what's required in this policy by state. So you would have met and exceeded the standard.
We're just testing EMTs.
It would stay exactly how it is now. EMTs would test for refresher, the medics are taking the alphabet test.
EMRs.
EMRs. EMRs.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes,
Okay,
Katie?
Paul and I were sitting beside each other, we heard two different things. So, when I asked the question about the 4-year recertification, and it has PALS and ACLS listed as 8 hours, that's one refresher course. In 4 years though, I'm gonna do 2 refresher courses, so that's 16 hours.
Correct.
Okay, so that brings that number from 56 up to 72 in that column. If you're expected to maintain a current ACLS and PALS card for the 4-year period. So that's gonna throw your, does that mean we're gonna increase the total number of hours required from 120 to 136?
No.
Or you're gonna adjust?
No.
Okay.
No, it's 120 hours.
Okay, 120, so that's gonna change the other.
It will change the other hours instead of being
Be 16 and
30.
32.
to be what?
72 hours for proposed state and individual requirements, and then 16 instead of 32. for
Correct. Yes, that's how it should be. And again, I made a mistake, let it go. Sorry.
Well, I wanted to make sure that wasn't.
So for the record, you made a mistake. Hey, make sure you get that, Terry.
Someone is taking notes.
Some things you just don't push.
It's on the tape, right?
Yeah, it is on the tape. Yes. I would like to have some feedback. I mean, you guys have issues with it? You think it's reasonable? That's a thumbs up from Tracy. That's a big deal.
You can't,
I don't mean to throw a monkey wrench in this whole thing, but let's have these trauma hours. We talked about PALS or PEP and slash ACLS. Those are both, I understand those are both going to go to 16. ITLS, and I'm not sure about PHTLS, but ITLS is a 3-year cert.
PCLS is a 4-year cert, but we make them redo it every 2 years.
So
Can't use
is
it
that we're
twice.
going to use the same theory then for ITLS and just do them every
It's
2?
every 2 years, all
Which
those
means we
first
actually
two.
need another 8 hours in there to go with that too. Just throw in some more hours for calculation, Jamie, sorry. Because that's going to be, if we,
If you're going to do it every 2 years, you're going to get 8 hours every 2 years.
right, but I mean, it's only written, yeah, it's only written for 8, so you have to make that 16 as well.
For which one?
For ITLS or PHTLS. That's
Yeah,
what he said.
we changed all of it.
All
All
of
of
them.
them.
Yeah, all of them.
He did say, that. He said that all those would be 2.
All those are extra 16s today.
So that drives. Now, wait a minute. Remember that it's ACLS, I remember back at 92.
That's fine. They're telling me now, they told me, I heard them understand.
Oh, so the CE hours left are what? Reduced.
You had 16. Yeah, so 24 and 56 was the week. That's an 8-hour time. That's why I was confused.
8 hours.
So they gave me bad information.
It's 80, I'm not crazy.
so he did say,
So does it raise the termination required for CE?
Hey, James,
all right.
you made it.
So that is
80 hours.
What is the rule then? What is the rule?
8 hours.
So you only take one trauma class?
You're charged.
Okay, so does that chip away the hours left?
Reason why
So it still leaves 120 hours.
That's, yeah, that piece.
So you drop down to 8 hours left.
Right.
No, I don't.
Now we're on the same page, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just so everybody understands.
All right, I'm with you.
32 hours. 32 hours of a refresher course. Okay? 80 hours of proposed state and individual requirements, which would be your alphabet classes, all 3 of them, or equivalents, repeated every 2 years, which leaves you with 8 hours of CE that you have to pick up somewhere. And I will fix it and post it on the website so everybody can.
No, I mean, from a cost perspective, that's why I'm asking. Hey, Jamie? Jamie? Hey, Jamie? Hey, I just want to be clear from a cost perspective. They actually have to take that class and carry that card. You can't just do the hours in-house, right? And do a test in-house. I'm just asking.
Can you please bring it down a little bit? We have a question on the floor. I'm sorry, Dylan, go ahead.
No, I just asked, from a cost perspective, are they going to be required to take those classes and carry those cards, or is that something hour-wise and test-wise you can do in-house?
You can do an equivalent course.
So they don't have to carry
And there
this
is
course.
no requirement per policy to carry the card.
Okay.
Okay, but if you do an equivalent course, okay, like there's an equivalent out there to ACLS, that has to be submitted and approved by the Office of EMS prior to it, you know, that being something that you can do. If you want to create an equivalent to ITLS, you can do that, but it has to be approved and meet
Right.
all those requirements, and that's got to go through the Office of EMS to be done.
Doesn't C3 and CCT require you to carry an ACLS card by the rule?
But it's not required for paramedic certification.
Okay. So, but
We're
it's
just
still
talking about
required,
EMT
it's
and
required.
paramedic right now.
I'm just putting that out there because a lot of people don't think about C3 requiring ACLS.
Paul, do you have something?
All right, any other questions or comments? The next item that I have been in conversation and contact with John Thomas regarding the hazmat awareness. In the past, most of us have routinely used SafeResponse.com as our hazmat awareness. That is on the state website. I'm not sure if it's still there. It was an approved site, and that certificate will be accepted because it had already been pre-approved.
It's still there because we're still approved.
Okay, it is still there, it's still approved, however, it costs you $20 per person now to do that. They are now charging, it is not free anymore. So, I had asked John to assist me with trying to find something equivalent that met the standard that was still free, that we could pass out there, something online. We did find one out of Missouri State University. It is a free course. However, it does take exactly 8 hours to complete it. When it says 8 hours, it is 8 hours. And you have to have an ERG to successfully complete it unless you're really good with the second screen at Google. And at the end, there is a post-test. When you open the post-test, it says you have exactly 1 hour and 30 minutes to complete this exam. And you have to pass it. So it's free, and John did look at it. John sat through it. I did not. I backed out halfway through and said, I'm done. This is not an option. But it is something that we do have a website, if that's something you'd like to look at, that is free. You still have the option of an in-house hazmat awareness, which a lot of the fire departments offer and some of the EMS agencies. And that is also another option to have an actual hazmat awareness class. So many people, I've had a lot of emails, I've had a lot of calls about, hey, they're charging us now, we can't pay that. We can't either. We have 150 employees and there's no way we can pay $20 a person every single calendar year. That's not even financially an option that we could go with. So I'm sure most places are in that also. I'm sure John is open, as we have discussed many times. If you find something that you would like for him to look at, if it meets the requirement, he would be happy to look through that course if you find
Absolutely, if you
something
find
else.
something that's free or something that works, let me know. I'll take a look at it, we'll sit down and go through it. If it works, then it'll be approved.
I thought that when I'm only gonna charge $5.
Well, SafeResponse.com, for the $20, you get hazmat awareness, incident commander, and some other, I don't know, some kind of terrorism class or something that you can get all three of those certificates for $20. If that's something you want to do, it's still an option, but we're looking for something else that is free, that is online, that somebody doesn't have to sit through a classroom, because that's hard to get everybody in, as you know, with your employees, and everybody's busy. So if you find something, please share that with John Thomas, and maybe we can assist everybody else in the state.
Ed, Jeff, you guys got anything else?
Dr. Mills? Melissa? Anything in education? Does anybody else have any questions on education, comments, concerns you'd like to share with the group?
All right, because we added in the 8 o'clock meeting, everybody thank Paul. Thank you, Paul. No, it is needed. We moved MSAC to 1:30, so it's almost 12:30. You got an hour. If you guys want to run out and grab something, we will start promptly at 1:30.
Are we in the other room?
Yeah, in the other room.
I like that. They take